while I was making my previous video on the Owl House, some very good news for all you fans of the Owl House dropped. Disney, impressed by how well this horror comedy did, its success, has stated that the Owl House's creative crew will be trying to make an official comic that will continue the story after the remaining two specials air. With the specials, they will work to show the boiling oil saved from the collector and Emperor Belos, as well as finishing up any character arcs. This seems like Disney's apology for shortening the series for quote-unquote not fixing the Disney brand. Meanwhile, Gravity Falls gets away with scammed lumberjack spirits being scarier than most horror movies, and the scammers being even scarier, and Amphibia gets away with a 13-year-old attempting suicide in the first season finale, another 13-year-old being stabbed on screen in the second season finale, yet another 13-year-old dying and going to heaven to meet God in the series finale. First, I'm going to talk about the impact of the shortening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share for more content, and without further ado, let's start! The collector was added in so that the plot would wrap up in a neater bow. While there were going to be more focus on elements such as the Blight family and other Coven heads, without the shortening, Hollow Mind would have been the Season 2 finale. There would be no collector and thus no Hex Squad goes to Gracefield plot. Another thing that has come out of the shortening is that the specials have the length of 2 episodes each and a budget of 6 to 7 episodes each, which allowed, thanks to them, to be so dense with quality content. The remaining 2 specials will be the best episodes yet. However, there will be loose ends remaining that the comics can possibly cover, which I am happy for, which I am going to get into next. With the Owl House, I expect that it will end with Belos and the Collector defeated, no longer able to pose a threat to the boiling owls, and the possible redemption arc for the Collector, and as it's a kids show. On a positive note, I'm expecting that Luz and Amity will be together at the end of the series. For what I believe the overarching plot will be, it will be to abolish the Coven system and move the boiling owls towards a peaceful and free society. As longtime fan Rebecca Rose ended up working for the show, it's possible that a fan comic artist or two such as Mooring Mark could end up making official content. The fall of Emperor Belos would cause a power vacuum and a succession crisis, as he did have an heir due to having A, made himself immortal, and B, planned to kill everybody on the Isles, and C, saw sex with witches as in mortal sin, punishable by death. For who could take over the Isles during the Reconstruction era, I have 4 possible candidates for the next Emperor of the Isles. Luz would want to be Emperor because she feels like it's all her fault, but would be uncomfortable with another human lead the Isles, which would definitely leave a bad taste in people's mouths, even if it's for good. It would also work for symbolism, as Belos is Luz's evil predecessor. So it kind of makes sense that she takes over, this time to help the Owls instead of to destroy them. For Ida, she is the Emperor's biggest critic and would definitely call for reform, but she would hate being in charge of the Owls as she's a rebel. She hates rules, so making rules would so not be her. For King, he is the son of a dead god the Owls are built on, which Belos claimed to be able to speak to, but he is uncomfortable with worship. And for Hunter, he is biologically related to Belos, being the Grimwalker of his brother and thus closer on the family tree to him than the Clawthorn sisters, but he wants nothing to do with Belos' reign. Whomever steps up to the challenge of the next Emperor would most likely be very reluctant to, but they would have to do so to get rid of a system the ruler of the Boiling Owls put on the populace to oppress and eventually exterminate them. The changes will have to be steady, as the Coven system has dominated the Owls for 50 years, and abolishing it overnight would cause a lot of damage. For real-world analog, look at the shock therapy used to westernize Russia. The introduction of capitalism to Russia got rid of all the careful price regulations the communist regime kept for over 70 years, which led to basic essentials becoming unaffordable, which led to poverty and crime, and left the people desperate enough to look for a leader who promised a return to the Soviet days. That leader is Putin. Anyways, back to the Owls, I think the first thing done will be abolishing the use of Coven brands, because even without the possibility of a draining spell, those brands, except for the Emperor's Coven brand, limit the types of magic one can use. All of this was done so that Belos would have a monopoly of powerful witches on his side, as witches capable of using mobile magic types are the most powerful. Also a chance to remove brands without removing the arm they're on, so if you joined the coven prior, your magic would be unrestricted and people would want to remind the dictator that literally tried to kill everybody on their wrists. Next, there's making covens optional to join and moving society away from competitive to cooperative. Belos managed to divide conquer by putting emphasis on competition in boiling all society, which made it harder for witches to unite. A lot of problems such as bullying and elitism are observable in the schools, and it will be as bad if children were taught to cooperate over being taught to compete. And only by working together will we all able to have a chance to survive when the day of unity came. And only by working together will our society become stronger. Next, there's completely dissolving covens and allowing students to study mobile tracks. I'd say that 2 to 4 is the recommended maximum, as IRL students get burnt out and struggle at 5 courses or more. Of a dissolving the coven system, there's economic reforms, as the grey field of 350 to 400 years ago was clearly more prosperous than the grey field of today. Basically, every system that was used to keep Belos in power for the last half century would get removed. Another thing will be establishing peaceful communication between the two realms. For travel, there is a Titan's blood, but as King is a living Titan, he could allow travel between the two realms. There will need to be border patrol, as not only there are humans like Jacob Hopkins who would come into the demon realm with harmful intentions like Philip Woodbane did all those years ago, even though the humans who are like Philip and Jacob are now few and far in between, but there will be a whole generation of traumatized witches wanting revenge against the humans. There's pre-existing anti-human prejudice in the Boiling Owls, seeing that the last known human was a serial killer, but knowing that the tyrant who ruled the Owls for the last 50 years and tried to murder everybody that same humans would not be popular on the Owls, and the extermination war would be hard to fight against, as humans can only use glyphs near Titan's blood. Against some nukes there will be difficult. Thus, the heroes will have to make sure that bad actors don't come to the human realm to harm the witches, and witches don't enter the human realm to punish humanity for the crimes of one human. The main plot will most likely be navigate the politics of the Reconstruction era Boiling Owls, and that leads us into character-specific subplots. One thing that I can see is that Camila will return to the human realm after the final battle to return to her clinic in V. I could see Luz working herself to death on making sure that the Reconstruction era Owls, thankfully not literally, dying of overwork, leads to into a society similar to the society of old she saw in Elsewhere and Elsewhere, because she blames herself for Belos' rise to power the destruction of that utopic society, of course. And as much as Luz is learning to stop blaming himself for everything, old habits die hard, and the group will stop her from self-destructing in an attempt to fix mistakes that aren't really her own. Luz, though Sage, is the only member of the Hexite squad whose character arc is incomplete as of right now. Amity's character arc wrapped up in Clouds on the Horizon when she cut ties with Odalia, or Odalia cut ties with her family so they didn't have to. Hey, I have to give credit where it's due. It kissed Luz on the lips so hard the animation quality increased to Demon Slayer fight scene levels. Willow's character arc concluded any sport in the storm with her getting the first tease of relationship with Hunter, her being a powerful plant witch. So much for half a witch of Willow. She's a whole witch, bitch. Gus's character arc and did elaborate runners, with him learning to trust himself from his friendship with Hunter, and Hunter's character arc concluded thanks to them, with him finding a proper family, losing any attachments to Belos with Flapjack, and Luz's character arc is starting to come to a close, with Camila pushing her to come along with her to save a demon realm and stop blaming herself. I'd also like to see Luz and Camila get through the grief and trauma from Manny's death, as they both seem to bottle it up. Luz refuses to mention her father, but when she absolutely has to, she will downplay how much Manny's death affected her, and it takes all her strength to talk about him at all. And Camila also bottles up with grief from her husband's death, having hid all of his merchandise in their basement, even though it could be from bullying in their teenage years, making her repress her interests, or a bit of both. And when it's brought out, she begins literally spilling her tea. R.I.P. Camilla's cup of tea. Yeah, we need Manny flashbacks. Another thing would be if it takes place years down the line, at least 4 of them, we could see Luz and Amity prepared to get married or wedding. If they go far enough into the future, we could see the birth of a Hexside Squad's children, except for Gus, the perpetual bachelor. But if he's not into robots, we can respect that. Perhaps once Luz gets pregnant, Amity will be afraid that she'll become just as terrible as her mother, but Luz will tell her that those fears prove that Amity will be a great mother. Especially if it's revealed that Odalia's parents were abusive themselves, turning their daughter into the cold-hearted arms dealer we all know and loathe. And it will be shown that it does not excuse Odalia one bit, but it explains everything about her because nobody's born cruel and selfish. Those are learned behaviors. And Luz and Amity's first-born daughter will be named Azura and look just like the good witch Azura, and it will probably be revealed that via time pools, Luz is the author of the Good Witch Azura book series and sent them to the past. It's totally possible, as time travel in the Owl House is all predetermined. So it's possible for Good Witch Azura series to exist in a stable time loop. And the time loop is Luz writes Good Witch Azura as bedtime stories for her daughter, then Luz uses time pools to distribute Good Witch Azura in the past across both realms. Then a dying Manny finds the Good Witch Azura books and gives them to his young daughter. Then Luz is inspired to go on adventures by her favorite book series. Then Luz grows up, marries her longtime crush Amity, a fellow fan of Good Witch Azura, and they name their daughter after their hero. And then rinse and repeat. Only the information has to come from nowhere, so it could work. Other plots I would like to see stuff from both realms interact more and more, and I could see Gus become the teacher of human studies at Hexside. I think he'd make a pretty good teacher if he grew up. Of course, I say that as a teacher's son. When Gravity Falls wrapped up, Journal 3 was defictionalized and added to the lore, and now that Amphibia is over, Marcy's journal is going to be defictionalized and going to reveal more lore. For example, the revelation that Valeriana is a newt who created the Calamity Box, and that she is indeed the ghost kept in the mortal realm by regret. Ford Pines is the smartest human character in Gravity Falls and wrote a book that got defictionalized. Marcy Wu is the smartest character in Amphibia, or at least the smartest human, and she's smarter than Andreas, hence why she was chosen to have a core downloaded onto her instead of Andreas, and wrote in a book that would get defictionalized, and Philip Whitbane is the smartest character in the Owl House, and he had a diary. Of course, Philip is fond of twisting the truth, so we will need to take every entry with a grain of salt. However, it will still illuminate something that the fans either suspected or never guessed. It's probably the best way that they can finally say it. Evelyn and Caleb are who the cloth or bloodline traces back to. After all, Philip was definitely pissed that his brother was getting some witch pussy, so much so that he killed him. Maybe the comic could tie into Philip's diary, or at least the official release, so the remaining mysteries of Boiling Isles could be solved. And that's all I have to say for the possibility of an official Owl House comic. Please like, subscribe, and share for more content. I'll appreciate it a lot. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Tyson out.